All right, boys, what is good? We are here again with Premier League predictions for Match Week 7. Gonna do a little recap here because, I mean, it was a great week. There's really no way I can't even wipe the smile off my face. It was a great week. We finished 3 out of 621 with 5 1x2 right, which I'm not too impressed with that, with a 50% 1x2. What I am impressed with, though, is getting 4 out of 10 exact scores right. I mean, that is gonna be hard to top. That's gonna be very, very difficult to do better than, but I'm extremely, extremely happy with getting 4 out of 10 correct scores right and finishing 3rd out of 621 people on the leaderboards. And just as a little recap here, so I had Manchester City to win 2-1. They draw Newcastle 1-1. And in reality, I'm never predicting that. I don't think long term it's worth me going against Manchester City with, like, we do know they're going to drop a couple games here and there, but I feel like backing anything other than a Manchester City win long term just seems like you're going to find the wrong spots more than the right spots. So I'm okay with a 2-1 prediction here. Nottingham Forest and Fulham. I thought Nottingham Forest could get it done 2-1. They lose to Fulham 1-0. Nottingham Forest and Fulham, still 2 teams that I'm kind of struggling with a little bit. Speaking of teams that I was struggling with, if you do go back and watch the video, the Everton Crystal Palace prediction was just mwah. Like, I thought Everton was getting a little bit more respect on the odds than Crystal Palace were, and I predicted the 2-1 exact score, and it finishes 2-1 on the dot. Extremely happy to predict a team like Everton to win, and I'm, you know, like, if you've been watching, like, picking Everton to win a match like that and getting it right on the dot, I am proud of myself for that. Moving forward here, we have Chelsea Brighton. This is a kind of annoying one. I thought I had the right vision with a spicy 2-2, but it wasn't spicy enough. I mean, Chelsea put 4 on their heads with the Cole Palmer hat trick. That one will be a 0 points, but I still feel like my entire process wasn't the worst with that. Brentford West Ham, it finished 1-1. I had 1-1. Nothing more to say, right? I thought 1-1. It ends 1-1. We take that. Arsenal Leicester, same kind of idea with the Manchester City. The fact that this score ended 4-2, like, I just don't think I can predict a 4-2. It just makes no sense to me to try to predict Leicester scoring 2 goals at the Emirates. So we'll take the 1x2 part right. We won't get the correct score there, but I'm not going to cry about that one. Wolves Liverpool, 2-1 exact score for Liverpool comes through. We love that. We have nothing to say about that. Just absolutely brilliant there. So on Sunday, it did not go well, right? This is probably what cost me a top 2 position, getting 0 points on Sunday. I had Aston Villa to beat Ipswich 2-0. Not really disappointed with the correct score. More disappointed that they ended up drawing outright. That is a very crazy result. But looking back at it, thinking about it more, one thing I need to be careful about is when the odds for a team like Villa are like 1.8 against a team like Ipswich, I should probably think about that a little bit more. So moving forward, we'll keep that in mind. Man United and Tottenham, a worst prediction. No matter what you think of my other predictions, that's the worst one. I had Tottenham fans giving me shit for predicting 2-1 to United here. I didn't think it was an insane prediction, but watching the match first half, Tottenham dominated, even with the red card, no red card, whatever. If you're a United hater, oh man, what a match for you. And then we end here on Bournemouth Southampton. I'm very impressed with this one. 3-1 exact score. You love to see it. The other team gets a goal. Bournemouth put 3 in the first half. Southampton scores immediately out of the second half, and then they end 3-1 on the dot, which brings me to the 3 out of 621 here. And we did earn $53 on the leaderboards here. And if you're wondering on how you can make money with Score Rush, go check out the link in my bio. Click on that. Join the pro version, and once you buy yourself a league pass, which means you can predict any league for life, that is how you can start earning rewards on Score Rush with me. So get on those leaderboards and start showing me your guys' ball knowledge as well. If you guys haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel and like this video. So we have Crystal Palace and Liverpool here, and as we know, Crystal Palace is coming off that really bad defeat against Everton, and Liverpool is coming off a nice win against Wolves. So we see Liverpool is being given 1.5 odds, and the one thing we should know here is that this is a early Crystal Palace kickoff, right? This is the 7:30 Eastern time, which is the early kickoff in England. I have heard some interesting stories about Crystal Palace at home at this time slot versus big clubs, so something to consider, something to think about. Another thing I want to see here would be what the total looks like. It looks like the total is going to be about 3.25, so they're expecting about 3 goals in this match. We go to the head-to-heads here. Crystal Palace really hasn't shown us too much this season. I would say kind of a disappointment to what they thought probably. One thing we should probably look at here is how did they play against each other when they've matched up recently away from home. And as we can see here, 4 out of 5 matches have been Liverpool. It does seem like Liverpool should get the result here. Is 1.5 a little bit concerning? Yes, it is. Now, this is a type of match where Crystal Palace could figure it out, right? Like, I'm not totally saying this is just going to be easy for Liverpool, but knowing what we know kind of makes me want to just predict a 2-1 Liverpool win here. Possibly even a 2-0 Liverpool win here. If Crystal Palace doesn't score on Liverpool, would I really be that surprised? Like, no. They only scored 1 on Everton. The last thing I'll check here is the both teams to score market, which is sitting at 1.62. And you know what? It really does make me wonder if Crystal Palace is going to be able to score. I'm really on the fence between 2-1 and 1-1. 2-1 makes sense to me. I am concerned about 1-1 with that early Crystal Palace kickoff. I've decided I'm going to go with 1-1. This is so Crystal Palace. This is very... I feel like if Crystal Palace lose this match, then we just know what Crystal Palace is. But I think if we know Crystal Palace, and the reason they always are in that top, that top 10 to 13 spot at the end of every season, it's because they get results in a match like this. So I'm going to go with 1-1 Crystal Palace Liverpool. If Liverpool beat them 2-1, then I'll be upset. Any other result, I don't care. But I'm going to go with a 1-1 there. All right, now we have Arsenal and Southampton. Arsenal is 1.13. The total sits at about, 3.5 to 4. They're probably thinking 3 to 4 goals in this match. We just saw Southampton get 3 put on them by Bournemouth. So you would just think Arsenal at home, also coming off of a match where they were pretty shaky against Leicester. You would just think here is kind of the spot where they would have it figured out and maybe have a more convincing win. Not much to really look at when the odds are like this. I've always said that when the odds are kind of below 1.3, you really just need to go with the books. You can try to predict, the 3-1 scoreline, the 4-2 scoreline, but I try to keep it pretty straightforward here. I don't think Southampton's going to be scoring at the Emirates. I know they conceded 2 against the Leicester. I think people probably will look at this match and be like, oh, they conceded 2 to Leicester. It's 2.1 for both teams to score, but I don't think it's that simple. I think I'm going to keep the prediction kind of where my brain had it when I first looked at it and just go with 3-0 to Arsenal here. Brentford and Wolves. So I am a bit surprised that Brentford are 1.95 on the 1x2. I thought it would be more of like a 2.3, 3.3, and 3 odd for the 1x2. They probably do think that Brentford should get this win, but I don't think Wolves are that bad, especially when they play a team like Brentford, I would imagine. So let's look at the recent results here. We have seen a Brentford 2-0 win away from home. We've seen Wolves win 4-1 and Wolves win 2-0. It is a bit surprising that Wolves are being this disrespected, but as I say that, my eyes wandered here, and it's been tough. But also, you can say Wolves have been playing bad, right? 4 straight losses with 1 being in the EFL Cup. So we'll just call it 3 straight losses. But they've lost to Newcastle 2-1, Brighton 3-2, and Liverpool 2-1. I feel like that's not a really fair representative of how bad they are, right? Like, you're telling me Wolves are Wolves are this bad based on this here? That's not too fair. But you look at Brentford, and Brentford have drawn West Ham 1-1, which is a decent draw, I'd say. At home, maybe you could say they should have won, but 1-1's a decent draw. Losing 3-1 to Tottenham, I'm not impressed by that at all. Losing 2-1 to City, I guess it's pretty impressive, right? Losing 2-1 to City, and then beating Southampton 3-1. So Brentford, it does seem like when it's been important, they have gotten it done, right? When it's a match they should get a result or win, they have done it so far. And I don't think there's been a match here that we can say that, they deserved the result but didn't get it. Nah, they beat Crystal Palace, they beat Southampton, and they drew West Ham. So it seems like they've kind of just operated, in accordance to what we think. Both teams to score is 1.67 with the total probably at about, 2.75. My mind's only going to one spot with this. I think it's either 1-0 Brentford or 1-1 in the match. I think I'm going to go with 1-1. I think 1-1 Brentford Wolves. If it ends 2-2, I wouldn't be super surprised, or 0-0, but I'm feeling draw here. I just don't think they get the win. I'm going to go with Brentford Wolves 1-1. Leicester and Bournemouth. So we're seeing Leicester being given 3.2. So Leicester are home underdogs in this match. They're 3.2 on the 1x2, with Bournemouth being 2.1. We just saw Bournemouth beat Southampton 3-1, so that's fresh in our minds right now. We got to think about that as well. Both teams to score sitting at 1.53, so they are feeling both teams would score. Recent head-to-head here points us to, I would say both teams to score. I was going to say low scoring, but it's really not low scoring. It just seems like they both trade back and forth, right? Leicester 3-1 here, Bournemouth 4-1, Bournemouth 2-1, Bournemouth 1-0, Leicester 1-0, with the Leicester 1-0 being the cup. I'm curious what the over-under is. If the over-under is high, I could see it being a 2. Yeah, so the over-under sits at about 3, right? The over-under sits at 3. I'm not really feeling a draw here. Do I really think this match ends in a 1-1 draw? No, I really don't. I think I'm going to go with a 2-1 Bournemouth win. This one specifically is difficult just because I feel like I'm really disrespecting the home underdog here with Leicester, but I just still feel like Bournemouth are better. I'm going to say they keep it moving. They keep it rolling. Bournemouth 2-1. Manchester City and Fulham. We have Manchester City sitting at 1.25 on the money line here. They are coming off a 1-1 Newcastle draw. I really do not want to predict anything other than a Manchester City win. If Fulham do get the result, it'll be hilarious to watch, I guess. Manchester City going 2 matches in a row without a win. I just don't think I can do it. Both teams to score sitting at 1.9. I guess they do see. I I mean, Manchester City aren't like inevitable, right? They have been conceding. They've conceded against Ipswich, West Ham, Brentford, Arsenal, and Newcastle. The only match they shut out their opponent was the opener against Chelsea. I think if they play Chelsea today, they probably don't shut them out again. I think it's safe to say that Fulham could be able to score, but this also feels like a match where Manchester City could put a crazy number. I'm going back and forth in my head right now if I want to go 3-1 or 4-1. I think since they played Champions League over the week, I'll give it just a 3-1. If they didn't play Champions League this week, I would have probably gone higher, but I think 3-1 to Manchester City after Champions League does make sense to me. They are playing Slovan, so it's not like they're playing anyone crazy. So they probably do have their rotations, and they're probably focused on this match for sure. I'm going to stick with a 3-1 Manchester City win over Fulham. West Ham and Ipswich. We see West Ham as 1.8 favorites on the 1x2, which is a bit surprising. I know Ipswich had a great result against Aston Villa, but that seems a little bit reactionary to make West Ham at home a 1.8 favorite. So speaking of West Ham at home, they have not been blowing bubbles. They've lost to Villa, City, and Chelsea. To be fair to them, though, Villa, City, and Chelsea are all top 6 teams at the moment, so you can't criticize them too hard or overreact to those 3 L's, but it's not a great look either. Ipswich away, they have gotten 2 results. The Brighton one, great ones. I mean, any results Ipswich get away from home is going to be massive for them at the end of the year. Even if it's not a win, I still think it's a nice result for them. I don't think there's going to be anything here that can help us. They've only played friendlies. That's surprising. They've never, well, I mean, I guess they've never just crossed paths at the same time, so there's nothing in their head-to-heads that can help us. Only the odds can kind of dictate where we go with how many goals are going to be scored here. 3 is that sharp number. What's both teams to score? Both teams to score is 1.67, and I know that Ipswich has been solid at scoring, right? 2 against Villa, 1 against Southampton, didn't score against Brighton. The only thing I don't love is if I really believe that they're going to score away from home again. So they've done it against Southampton, they've done it against City. Do I really want to predict them to score again away from home? You know what? I don't think I will. Obviously people do think both teams to score is a fun mark that everybody bets on, but I think for this match, I'm going to go with West Ham to beat Ipswich 2-0. Everton versus Newcastle. Everton is 3.2 on the 1x2, with Newcastle being the favorites at 2.15. Kind of a tricky matchup here. Everton are playing again at home. We had predicted them to beat Crystal Palace 2-1. Do I feel the same way about this match? I'm really not sure. It's really hard to say, like, yeah, for sure. Like, we are feeling another Everton upset here, but can we really believe that? Newcastle's coming off that 1-1 draw for City, which people will probably be favoring them a bit after that draw, especially. But I think what gets interesting here is if you look at the recent head-to-heads, you see Newcastle 1-1, Everton 3-0 win at home, Newcastle 4-1 win at home, Newcastle 4-1 win away from home, Newcastle 1-0 win, Everton 1-0 win. 3 total, just as kind of what I would imagined. And then the both teams score mark is at 1.53. I don't really believe they're going to draw again. I'm trying to make sure that if we're analyzing this match from the odds, how we can see that Newcastle's 2.15, but am I worried about everybody looking at these odds and thinking Newcastle win this easily? You would just think Newcastle would be worse odds against Everton, but unless Goodison Park is going crazy, unless they're thinking Newcastle just have an off week after a crazy result against Manchester City, the odds don't really make sense here either. So the 2 things that came to my mind were 2-1 Newcastle, but also 1-1 or 2-2, so a draw. So basically Newcastle to win by 1 or a draw in the match. I'm going to go with 2-1 Newcastle win over Everton, with complete understanding though that Everton may not be as bad as they opened up with, and if they're kind of turning the page here, this would be the match where they do it. I'm going to just say that they don't do it, but just watch out, right? This is the match that would turn my brain on Everton completely if they did get the result and even the win here. But just for the prediction's sake, just for score rush sake, I'm going to go with 2-1 Newcastle over Everton. Aston Villa versus Manchester United. Both of these teams are coming off pretty bad results. Aston Villa drew Ipswich. Manchester United lost 3-0 to Tottenham at home. They were down a man, but I mean, that's just not a great look, losing at Old Trafford 3-0 to Tottenham. We see Villa's given 2.15 on the money line, with Manchester United being given 3 odd here. The over-under, I'm going to guess, would price it around 3.5, right in between. It sits at 3.25, which is pretty expected. 2-1, 2-2, either team. Do I expect this to go crazy? This could be a crazy match, right? I could see this being a crazy match. Both teams to score being 1.5 is probably the least surprising thing. I would have easily expected that to be 1.5. The recent head-to-heads here is kind of what I'm interested in. So United, Villa. Wow. You would think with how bad people talk about United and how out of form they've been the last couple of years, but it is crazy. Against Villa, the last 3 matches, United. United, and that's home and away. They beat them twice at home, once away. I'm just trying to decide right now. Do I go with that 2-2 that my brain initially thought of, or do I predict Villa to win? For this prediction, I'm just going to roll with a 1-1 Villa United draw. I really did want to give Villa the win, but I just can't get myself to do it. I think the overreaction here will be backing Villa because people think United suck, but I think this could be the match where neither team wins and it's just going to end in a draw. So for me, Villa United 1-1 draw. Chelsea and Nottingham Forest. Chelsea have just been incredible, right? Cole Palmer this, Cole Palmer that. He's literally cold Palmer. There's really not much to say. Like, he's been incredible. They've been rolling ever since. I feel like that Wolves match was their breakout match where it feels like they've been in form. They obviously had that 1-1 versus Crystal Palace, which we kind of know that's not the worst result, right? 1-1 against Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace always does that to top 6 teams. But then after that, they beat Bournemouth, they beat West Ham, and they beat Brighton. And in this process, I've tried fading them. I think all 3 times. I know I faded them against West Ham and against Brighton in terms of my score rush prediction. So that obviously hasn't worked out. The question is, do I try it a third straight time, trying to get it right on trying to get it right on Forest, or do I just accept that Chelsea are absolutely like that this year? So recently, we've seen Chelsea beat Nottingham 3-2. Nottingham has beaten them 1-0. Draw, Chelsea. So the last 4 Prem matches are pretty interesting to me, right? We see a Chelsea win, Nottingham win, and then 2 draws. 2 straight matches in a row with Chelsea at home where they did not get the win. Is that something we have to think about? Do we have to consider a 1-1 or something? I really don't want to. I really do not want to fade Chelsea here. I've done it 2 straight times and it hasn't really worked out. Both teams' score is 1.7. They're probably not expecting Nottingham Forest to probably put one in. And then the over-under probably sits at what? 3? Yeah, just about 3 again. For Chelsea, Nottingham Forest, I'm going to keep this simple. It's that 9 a.m. I think this is a 9 a.m. Sunday game. I think I'm just going to go with a 1-0 Chelsea win. Now, we could come back to this result. We could come back to this prediction and be like, wow, that's horrible. You know how many goals Chelsea have scored? This is the prediction you make. It's 2 ideas. Chelsea winning 1-0 isn't the most insane thing to me. Like, you try to visualize the match slow, no goals at halftime, 0-0. People are freaking out. They bring on a sub scores, boom, Chelsea win 1-0. But I think my bigger thing is it was either Chelsea to win 1-0 or it was a 1-1 or 2-2 draw. So I don't think I want to give Forest a result. And I'm hoping that even if it's a crazy scoreline, I just get the points on the Chelsea win. But for this one, I'm going to go with a Chelsea 1-0 win over Forest. Last match of match week 7, we have Brighton and Tottenham here. 2.75 for Brighton to win, 2.2 for Tottenham to win, and 4.1 on the draw. This may be the lowest both teams to score match. Yeah, it's 1.36. Both teams to score feels inevitable here. Now, the question is, if both teams to score is that inevitable, does that mean the total is at 3.5? It is right on the dot. I guess that's fair to say, right? If both teams to score is that obvious, then it's a matter of 2 more goals are coming and by who. I don't think this ends in a draw, right? I'm not saying it's a crazy prediction, but I know we've seen a 2-2 here, 4-2, 0-1, 0-2. Looking at the recent head-to-heads, we see a bunch of goals in the Chelsea match. We've actually seen 3+ goals in both of Tottenham's last 2 matches, right? 3-1 win over Brentford, 3-0 win over United. And in Brighton's last 2 matches, they've been 2-2 and 4-2. So goals are going to be abundant here. The question is it going to be a absolutely stunner, or do the books cash heavy on the last match of match week 7 because everyone's expecting goals? That is kind of the decision that we have to make here. The more I look at it, the more I become uncertain. The total being 3.5, I just can't decide if I'm thinking 2-2 or 2-1 to either team. So that just means, I'm basically thinking anything could happen in this match. So let's just start with the 1-1, right? We know that we have a feeling they're both going to score. I think if we assume Tottenham's in form now, I think they get the win 2-1. Brighton didn't get a win against Nottingham at home. They got embarrassed by Chelsea away from home. I am slightly gravitating towards the idea that Tottenham get the 2-1 win, and I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with a Tottenham 2-1 win over Brighton for the last match of match week 7. All right, boys, that wraps up the match week 7 predictions. Again, if you haven't already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. I appreciate you guys all. And remember, again, go check out the link in my bio if you want to predict with me on Score Rush. Go ahead and join that pro version. You buy a league pass for any league you like. Mine happens to be Premier League, Europa League, and Champions League. Predict those matches with a league pass, and you will be able to start earning rewards immediately. I will see you guys on the match week 8 predictions. Love you guys.